Good morning. My name is Jeff Lasky, and I am the CEO for the North Shore-Barrington Association of REALTORS, NSBAR. I am pleased to welcome a great panel this morning who will share their insights about our real estate industry and its reaction to the coronavirus pandemic. Thank you very much for taking some time to learn more about what is happening in our marketplace. Joining me today is Gideon Bluestein, the Member Outreach Manager for Illinois REALTORS, Rebecca Jensen, the President and CEO of Midwest Real Estate Data, i.e. MRED, our MLS, and Joe Roth, the Government Affairs Director for NSBAR. Before we get started, a friendly reminder for everybody on our podcast today that we are all in the real estate brokerage business, association management, or MLS management. Many of our members are in the same market area. As a result, antitrust laws prohibit discussion at this meeting by anyone concerning competitive business practices, the amount of fees, commissions charged or to be charged to clients, compensation, and splits paid or to be paid to real estate professionals by anyone. Accordingly, it is the policy of NSBAR that we will not entertain any discussion prohibited by antitrust laws as stated above and as I just described. Also, NSBAR is recording this podcast for you, and we will be sending it out to our members as a link afterward, as well as posting it on nsbar.org. We have some questions to ask our panel participants that have been sent in by our members, and we'll fit in questions emailed in during the session as time permits. Send those to info@nsbar.org. If you click on the actual broadcast in the email, you'll be taken to YouTube, where you can send in questions via the chat room as well. So I'd like to begin our conversation this morning with Mr. Gideon Bluestein of Illinois REALTORS. Welcome, sir, and good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for joining us. From my perspective, the pandemic really started hitting home, at least for me, about 3 weekends ago. And that's when Governor Pritzker issued his order shutting down sit-down service at restaurants and bars. And then he followed that about a week later with his stay-at-home executive order, which contained exceptions for essential services. Can you give us a review of the guidance Illinois REALTORS has for its members regarding compliance with the governor's directives and the safe, lawful practice of real estate?
Absolutely, Jeff. And first off, I want to say hello, good morning if you're listening live, and good afternoon, evening, or whenever if you're listening to the recording. But the most important thing is I know if you're like me, you're probably receiving way too much information right now. I make the joke that anyone I've ever given my email to seems to be sending me a coronavirus update right now, or at least in the last couple of weeks. So Illinois REALTORS really I want to stress that we're very careful about only sharing the really need to know and important information. And we want to be one of your trusted resources with regard to getting guidance and information at this time. So, to directly answer your question, the guidance we've been sharing, it's really kind of been a two-part guidance. First off, it was focused on best practices with regard to health. So we were looking to the CDC and other health organizations. NAR has provided some excellent resources. And then also a risk management perspective, making sure that during these times, you're making business decisions that aren't going to put you or your company in a bad position legally. So we do have that guidance up. And then as you had referenced in the question, we quickly pivoted when the executive order was issued from guidance to really trying to unpack that executive order and make sure that we're sharing just the most important information about that EO. And I don't want to ramble on, so Jeff, I'll turn it back to you. I can go deeper on the executive order if you'd like, but let me turn it back to you.
I think I'm going to have you do that in a second, but where I want to start off with is what we've gotten a lot of questions about, and our direction, or I should say our recommendations to our members have been very consistent with what Illinois Realtors has recommended as well. And so we've had a lot of people call in about showings, about open houses, things like that, and how is it that we could be an essential service, that kind of thing. So let's go first with what has Illinois Realtors direction been regarding how people can continue to conduct a real estate business currently.
Okay, so sure. The executive order, I think really that's where I want to start. So the executive order went into effect last Saturday, and the real estate industry was included as an essential business. So real estate professionals were included in there. And so basically what that means is that real estate professionals can continue to operate their business. But what we've stressed is that while you can continue to operate your business, you've really got to make some judgment calls and make decisions that are going to be, best practices with regard to protecting health. And so we do have some of those best practices and some of that guidance up at our website. I should mention that to find more detailed information, you can go to illinoisrealtors.org/COVID-19. So that's /COVID-19. And we've got all of this guidance up there with regard to operating your business in a safe and healthy manner.
And specifically, showings, open houses are not banned, right?
Correct.
They could continue to take place. However, precautions consistent with what the CDC, the Center for Disease Control's issued.
Correct.
Obviously, the safety of everybody involved is paramount.
Right, absolutely. And there's a bunch of different directions that these questions, without diving into the details, there's probably no fewer than 10 different directions that these questions can go with regard to showings and open houses. That's why, generally speaking, I just want to say the guidance we've put out there and that NAR has put out there is really based on that CDC health guidance. And so, some of the questions that we've got answers to up there. What if my client insists that I continue to hold an open house? What precautions should be taken if an open house is held? And really, these answers that are available there have been crafted to help make. They've been crafted in the light of the CDC guidance to make sure that actions are being taken both legally and with an eye towards health.
Well, it's interesting because you're right that the perspective is from two different directions, right? Whether it be from the real estate professional or their customers. So as an example, there isn't anything that requires a real estate professional to ever put their own lives at risk or put themselves in danger in order to carry on business. Is that a fair statement?
Of course. Yeah. And, so one of the questions, what if my client insists I continue to hold an open house? So you're never required to put yourself at risk. You're right, Jeff. And then also one of the things that NAR has put out there, and we've got links to that, but I'll share NAR's coronavirus page as well. It's nar.realtor.org/coronavirus. They've got some really nice guidance on how you can pivot to virtual showings, virtual open houses. What are some of the technology tools that you can use in place of an in-person, live open house?
Right, and I believe everybody all the guidance that I've seen out there, whether it be from NAR, Illinois Realtors, ourselves, other associations in the area, it's been directing people towards, hey, look, this is what's allowed, but it's not necessarily what you have to do in order to continue to, conduct your business in an effective way.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like a two-part question. What's allowed, but then what's the best judgment call to make for my business and my health, right? And then to answer those to answer the second question, that's where Illinois Realtors, NAR, and I've seen, NSBAR's done a great job to get that guidance out there so that our members can make the right judgment calls.
And from a business perspective, And I want to say this the right way, but we've been consistent about saying it is a business decision. And so when associates, when agents, brokers have contacted us, we've directed them to talk to their managing broker, their office managers, about what kind of, how should they proceed with how they're doing their business at this point in time. But we also have put out there that here's the guidance that we've gotten in terms of what is allowed.
Right.
And so,
I just said that it's general guidance, but also you're absolutely right. You've got to check with your sponsoring broker and what has the sponsoring broker put out there with regard to guidance, because their guidance, it's a business decision and their guidance might be much more specific than some of the guidance that we've got up. Terrific.
Now, I'm curious, this is a question I have as much as I suppose a lot of our members do, but I don't suppose it's like Gary Clayton, just, the executive order comes down and Gary or Jeff Baker says, okay, this is how we're going to do this. There must be some kind of process that goes on at Illinois Realtors when you guys come up with your, how you do this, right? With the recommendations that you make. Can you talk about that a bit?
Whether it's during a crisis or whether it's not during a crisis, the activities and direction of the association is, it comes from the members, right? And so we've got our board. Our board is in great contact with our staff leadership, to hopefully not peek behind the curtain too much, but I do want to stress that, our legal team, our government affairs team is in regular contact with IDFPR as well as the governor's office as these decisions are coming out. And, to go back to the executive order, I do just want to mention it wasn't by accident that the governor's office and IDFPR chose to include real estate professionals as an essential business. Many other states have completely, shut down most real estate activities. And so Illinois, we made a strong legal and, advocacy argument, and we're included as an essential business. But that was an effort that was directed between the members and our association staff, keeping in touch with IDFPR as well as the governor's office.
And kudos, obviously, terrific job in terms of, as usual, protecting the rights of real estate professionals in the state of Illinois. Interestingly enough, and I know you have some familiarity with this, Gideon, based on discussions you've had with other organizations, I know that we just had this federal stimulus passed, right? What is it? The CARES Act. And so that also has a great amount of effect on our individual members, or can. So do you mind taking a minute or two to review the CARES Act for everybody as well?
Absolutely. I will try to summarize a $2.2 trillion piece of legislation in a couple of minutes, but I want to pull out what are the aspects that are the most important to real estate professionals. And I have to say, NAR and your association across the entire nation really did a great job of pulling together to make sure that the real estate industry's home ownership was looked out for in the CARES Act. There's so much to go over, so I'm just going to give very high points and then tell you where you can get detailed, up-to-date information. So a couple of points that are top of mind. One is probably the one that we've all heard the most about, is that federal rebate stimulus check. So there's going to be a $1,200 check going out to most adults. There are income limits on it. So the maximum amount of $1,200 is based on a $75,000 income tax filing. Either they're going to look at 2019, or if you haven't filed 2019, it goes back, they're going to look at 2018. The household limit for that is, if you're joint filers, the household limit is $150,000. And then it scales down from that maximum rebate amount down to zero if your income caps out at $100,000, or joint filers, I believe it's $200,000. It also includes $500 per eligible child, and eligibility, my understanding is that it's based on the federal child tax credit. So that's the first big piece. The second big piece is that we're probably getting the most questions about right now is changes to the unemployment insurance program. So unemployment insurance is administered at the state level, but it's mostly federally funded. So this included two things that are really critical. One, an increase, a federal increase of up to $600 a week per eligible unemployment insurance recipient. And the other huge thing, and this is where we're getting most of our questions, is it allows the self-employed or independent contractors to apply for unemployment insurance benefits. So this has happened very quickly. The law passed and was signed by the president last Friday, and the state agency tasked with unemployment insurance is the Illinois Department of Employment Security. We don't have final guidance yet. It's changing. We are in touch with IDES, and once we get any updates, any guidance on how to apply, what documents are needed, we're going to be posting that again at our illinoisrealtors.org/COVID-19 page. We want to make sure that we get everybody the most accurate information about this. The other place, if you're listening, IDES, the website is ides.illinois.gov if people are interested.
Yeah. I'm sorry,
I
just want to jump in on that and say that Illinois Realtors also did a great blog posting on that yesterday. So if people want to review the information that you were just sharing with us about the unemployment benefits, go find the blog posting on illinoisrealtors.org. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. Mm-hmm. A couple of other things I want to mention. I've gone over my couple minutes. I apologize. But a couple of other things I want to mention. The SBA, the Small Business Administration, there are disaster loans and 7A loans. I'm not going to get in the weeds on this, but I do want to encourage people in the real estate industry to check out those disaster loans if you've been impacted by the coronavirus. Very, very important to check those out. There is additional, I believe it was to the tune of north of $300 billion in funding. They are trying to get liquidity into the small business community. And so they are trying to make it easy to apply. That was the intent of the legislation. A couple of other important things. The legislation has rules about mortgage forbearance. So this is really important for realtors to know about. And then also some bans on foreclosure filings and evictions for a period of time. So really important to check out more details on this. The best place I can direct listeners to go get more information on this, two places. One, we have links to it through our webpage, which I've mentioned a couple of times, is illinoisrealtors.org/COVID-19. The other place is NAR.realtor/coronavirus. So really, really good information. The last piece I want to share about what NAR has put out there is they have a guide for property owners. And the way I explain this, it's basically like an encyclopedia of all of the aid or changes that is out there right now. So it's everything from student loan payments, what's happening, what if I can't make my student loan payment, to what are specific banks doing with regard to mortgage forbearance. So again, that's available at NAR's website, nar.realtor/coronavirus. And the reason I mention that is it's an encyclopedia of useful information. Realtors are trusted advisors, right? And so you're getting questions from your clients, from your friends, from your family. And not that you should be offering the advice on this, but you can direct them towards the right information so that they can get their questions answered.
Nicely done, sir. I appreciate all of the great information that you've shared with us today. Just want to reiterate to our audience, NSBAR's position on this continues to be completely consistent with the direction that Illinois Realtors has given. For more information regarding coronavirus, COVID-19, the pandemic, NSBAR also has a dedicated webpage. You can access it right when you go to our homepage. There's a link right at the top of it. Can't miss it. The information that Gideon's been sharing with us today is going to be included in there if it's not already. We're just filling in the gaps of the stuff that we haven't put there already. And let's see, and Illinois Realtors, I mentioned the blog posting. They also have a link right at the front of their website to make it easy for you to find their page on COVID-19. So yeah, a lot of information, but I think getting you really helped us understand in an organized way what we might be able to consider, what we might need to consider going forward, especially the loan information that's been included in the federal stimulus. There are offices that need to meet payroll, things like that, that those loans could be really helpful for. So
yes, thank you, Jeff. And I do want to encourage the listeners to check out NSBAR's website. You've done a great job of coordinating during this time and making sure that there's good information up on NSBAR's website. So thank you very much.
Seems like everybody's doing a great job of coming together on this and working together. And speaking of that, and speaking of doing business, I'm going to now turn ourselves over to Rebecca Jensen. And what she's going to do is help us get clear on the effects that the pandemic has had in terms of MRED or MLS. And so welcome, Rebecca. Thanks for joining us for a few minutes. Very much appreciate it.
Great to be here. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, you got it. I know MRED has gotten plenty of questions and has responded to what's happened from the governor's office in a couple of ways. So can we start there, do a review of how MRED has responded?
Yes. So immediately after the governor's press conference, MRED's board met and we made a couple key policy changes. The first is with respect to our active listings. There was a lot of discussion about, should we pause days on market? Should we pull days on market altogether from reports and just essentially hide it? Should we just temporarily suspend days on market was an alternative. What should we do? And at the end of the day, we decided to keep days on market for active listings. And I know that it sounds kind of cheesy, but we looked at one of our core values, which is reliability. And one of the jobs of the MLS is to paint a clear picture of what's happening in the marketplace. And it was the broad consensus that, if we are doing anything to manipulate that data, then it becomes less reliable. And that just it just flies in the face of what we're about. And it wasn't too long after that MLS is actually, we have our own trade association called the Council of MLSs. It was nice to see that they issued guidance for all MLSs that was right in lockstep with what MRED decided on this issue, which is MLSs should not be manipulating days on market for active listings. And so that seems to be what MLSs are doing across the country, not just in MRED's marketplace. There is another key decision that MRED's board made that day, and that is with respect to our temp status. So our temp status has long existed at MRED to be sort of like an off-market status where the seller temporarily wants to pause marketing of their property. However, there is still a listing agreement in place to sell the property. And MRED's board decided not to count the market time while a listing is in that temp status. Quite frankly, when we looked at all the ways that market time is calculated, not just within the MRED platform, but also the way that other MLSs do it, first of all, there is no true standard for that. MLSs calculate market time all different ways. And it became very clear to me that this is an opportunity for MRED to improve the way that our market time is calculated in general and how it's reported. In fact, I would argue that it becomes even more important for us to start measuring things a myriad of different ways so people can then slice and dice what happened to the market during this time. And so it's our intent to hold a focus group and say, okay, what are the different ways that market time can be calculated? Which additional ways can MRED calculate market time? and what are the best tools to give to our users right now so that they can really analyze. So for example, some MLSs offer multiple market times to include, the number of days that a listing was available to show, or the number of days that a listing could be considered under a contract and no showings were available. So metrics such as that would be relatively easy for MRED to deliver. And so those are the conversations that are happening today. We're definitely not slowing down at MRED to respond to this. But so going back to your question, those were the two key decisions that the MRED board made, active listings and temp listings. Now, there are related issues to these. So this goes into some of the questions that we receive on our different decisions that we've made. So with respect to active listings, a lot of people want to know, aside from market time, how are the different portal websites handling this data, especially as it applies to showings and open houses? And so I know that we kind of got into that a little bit earlier in this podcast, and what we're giving guidance is just right in line with what Illinois Realtors and NAR is saying, which is it's a decision to be made on a local brokerage basis. And so MRED has not made the decision to pull the ability to show listings or pull the ability to display an open house on our properties. We leave that up to the individuals that are at the brokerage and agent and consumer level. So Zillow did contact me and say that they are testing something to allow URLs in the remarks, but this is another question that we have received as far as, can we put URLs to these virtual showings in the remarks for the public to see? And MRED has decided at this point not to make any changes to our policy that way, primarily because it's not a switch that we can just easily flip to allow that. We currently have software in place that automatically scrubs URLs from being displayed or contact information from being displayed in the public remarks. And by the way, we're not alone. Zillow already had software in place to scrub that, as do other websites. And so even a change at the MRED level would not necessarily mean a change at subsequent levels that consumers are interacting with today. And we also looked at the number of open houses that in a database of more than 55,000 active residential listings, we had less than 300 that even displayed some sort of an open house. That also is part of the decision. Now, we talked a little bit about the different websites that are out there, so it'll probably come as no surprise that MRED also has updated our site. And so we have not only cross-linked Illinois Realtors and NAR and all of our association partners on our website, but we are also creating new content for our website, that being market analysis. And so it is now March 31st. And so in a day or so, we will start seeing our normal monthly end statistics being released. But MRED is also creating additional statistics that we will update on a weekly basis that have the key metrics in place, so everybody can understand what's happening to the market, not necessarily just in real time, but just on a weekly basis. And so please look for that. We'll be posting all of this on the Connect MLS and to our website. Let's see, what else have I? I don't know.
You know what? Let me jump in for a second, because that's a lot of great information. So first of all, and we've already gotten questions, like maybe from media as an example, saying, has business been affected? Obviously, once these reports are starting to be generated, we'll have objective information about that, right? So.
Yeah, Showing Time has already created a report. They've done a great job showing not just on a US basis, but you can drill it down to Illinois particularly and MRED. So if you haven't looked at that, that's available today. But like I said, we're going to be putting together other custom reports in conjunction with the release of the March statistics. So just mredllc.com, and then we have a link on the top right that just says COVID. So
to circle back for a second now on showings, because I know that there's a rule, but I think it's been temporarily suspended, right? There's a rule requiring showings within 72 hours or something like that, right?
Yes, so thank you. On our active listings, we're just going to be more lax. It's not to say that we don't want you showing active properties. It's certainly not that. It's just that we're going to not fine people for, if they can't figure out how to do a showing within that 48 to 72 hour time frame, we're not going to just fine the heck out of you. So we want to encourage showings where they're smart, and a lot of agents are, definitely doing showings via either FaceTime or Facebook Live. I mean, so while the showings are definitely down, and statistics will show that, they are still being done. So, and again, some homeowners don't want showings, and so the correct course of action would be to put those in attempt status. So we do have the two different options.
Now, and I made a quick note on the days on market discussion, because I just want to emphasize this, and in the readings I was doing about this, it's hard to think about like 5 years from now or 3 years from now, right? But boy, if we started taking action to affect days on market across the board right now, 3-5 years from now, that's going to have an effect on people analyzing what's occurred, right? I mean, was that part of the discussion?
Yes, absolutely. We are living in new times, and hopefully nothing like this happens again, although there unfortunately is a lot of commentary about, what the flu season will look like next year. And, what are the decisions that are being made on a local basis, because they're, different states are implementing this stay at home or shelter in place differently. And so I think that it is really important to track how markets responded to this, and so we can use that information to, if necessary, do it better next time.
Terrific. Now, before I move over to Joe, we got to give Joe a few minutes to talk about all the neat stuff he's working on. But is there anything else you want to make sure that our members, your customers, know about MRED and what's going on right now?
Just something that's kind of tangential. I mentioned our focus group with our days on market and how we have attempt status. We really look to guidance from not just MLS's trade association, but we also have a standards body called RESO. And RESO creates standardized listing data, and MRED has been working and will continue to work to shift our fields to be more in line with the RESO data dictionary. It's something that was already on our roadmap. But so I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of that, and there will definitely be changes coming to MRED's data throughout this year to be more in line with that standard. So. Other than that, I think that's it. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share our message, Jeff.
Thanks for updating everybody. I very much appreciated. I do want to mention to our members, NSBAR is uniquely positioned to help our members in a couple of ways. And before I get to Joe, I'm going to mention these. Our tech support staff continues at work and is available for the usual calls and emails from members needing help. More than ever, while you're working at home, feel free to reach out to tech support, get the help you need, either over the phone or by them remoting into your computer. And remember that much of what our tech support people do is complimentary. So email help@nsbar.org or call us at our regular number, 847-480-7177, if you need help with your technology at home. We are also in the process, we may have pretty much done it already, but we're transitioning all of our education classes to being online. And some have said that this is a real opportunity to sharpen your skills and knowledge while you're at home. So not just your NSBAR education classes, get out to MRED. MRED's got some great opportunities for training at their website as well. Check out the education offerings, and they're easy to find at NSBAR.org. Joe Roth is our Government Affairs Director. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm going to have you get started by just telling, I know you and I have been talking quite a bit about 2 or 3 things that you've been busy with that our audience would be interested in hearing about.
Yeah, I think when you talk about local government and how our touch points work with them, it's really where the rubber meets the road. I think the good work of NAR, the good work of IR, in making sure that we can still conduct business, it would just be theoretical if it wasn't for cooperation from municipal and local governments. And we do have a lot of touch points when you think through the closing process, all those different touch points with local government. To that end, we've been trying to keep track of what the modified procedures are. No government is operating business as usual. So when we look at things like real estate transfer taxes, Illinois Realtors on a subpage of their COVID-19 website, they've listed out the municipal governments that have real estate transfer taxes where the procedures have changed. A lot of municipalities are already doing this online, so it's not really big changes, but to some there's significant changes. So we've listed those out as of last week. However, this is a very fluid situation that continues to evolve and change. For example, you'll see the city of Lake Forest on this list is not issuing transfer stamps. They're essentially stopping transactions right now. I've reached out to them. I've been working with the mayor and the city's finance director, and we're working on getting that process up and running again. So they will be issuing transfer stamps and procedures are to come, but that's kind of one example of where this is evolving as we go along. County recorders offices as well are another point where you need to think through how early things are connecting with them. Municipal water meter readings. A few of our municipalities have pre-sale inspections, and those are going to be a very individualized thing. I'm recommending that everyone touch base with municipalities early on those things, and in general, just plan for additional time throughout the process. So really, there's a lot of different things happening on the local level.
Yeah, and I think that last point is critical, that people build in as much extra time as they can and anticipate or expect that there's going to be extra time, make sure their clients understand that. And I think everybody would understand why that might be the case under the current circumstances.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and are there any particular municipalities right now that you're working on a specific issue that might be helpful to our people to know about?
Like I said, Lake Forest is the big one right now, where we're trying to help them start issuing transfer stamps again. I think they had a bit of misunderstanding in the process, so we've helped educate them on what's required to get to the recorder's office and the timelines needed to get to the recorder's office. So they're working on updating that procedure, and we expect something this week. I expect them to this week get something out that will give us guidance on this. But for the most part, it's just making sure that we have the most up-to-date information and that they're letting us know, what their procedures are, and more importantly, when they change their procedures.
Okay, so I'll throw this statement out to you and tell me if this is true or false, right or wrong. North Shore, Barrington marketplaces, at this time, the government entities aren't really inhibiting the ability for real estate professionals to get business done. Is that a fair statement?
It's fair-ish. We'll call it fair-ish. I think in general, any municipal government interactions tend to always have the potential to throw a wrench in the process. But I think they're trying to cooperate. They're doing their best to limit the burden on the market. They're doing their best to make sure they're still processing and offering their essential services. which includes things like, issuing transfer stamps and conducting final water meter readings. That one in particular, I know we can expect quite a few hiccups in that process, but they're ones that are fairly easy to overcome in working through the closing process with your closing attorneys and whatnot.
Terrific. Okay, so before I move on, anything else, Joe, that you wanted to mention that would be helpful to our members?
Yeah, I mean, there is just constantly changing information, and NSBAR website, IR website, both are great resources to continue to stay up to date on things. Also, feel free to give me a call if you encounter issues, if you feel like something's extraordinary going on in the extraordinary times we live. Let us know how we can be of help and how we can help support you.
Terrific, and I appreciate that very much. And as usual, 847-480-7177. Dial up to Joe if you need any help with anything. I also do want to mention we've had a couple of questions that have come in regarding tenants' rights, and we've also had these questions during the week. And so we're certainly not going to give legal advice today. And my recommendation, let me start by saying, so much of what we're talking about, there aren't necessarily clear answers. So it's not that we're not trying to give you help, it's that sometimes there isn't a clear way or a clear path because these are such unique times. But for tenants' rights in particular, the easy answer is to go ahead and Google tenants' rights. There are many websites out there which will provide you with the information that you can refer tenants to if they need that kind of help. So I did want to mention that. Otherwise, I think we've covered, I've put the questions in, or our speakers have they've answered the questions along the way that people have sent in. So I'm going to look at Bradley. Bradley's running the board for us today. I'm looking over at Bradley to see if there's anything else, any other questions that we need to address. Okay, if not, I'm going to look at our panel members and ask them, is there anything else? I'll start with you, Gideon. Anything else you want to add to the information that we've given out today?
No, I want to stress, the local association, North Shore-Barrington Association of Realtors, Illinois Realtors, National Association of Realtors, MRED. We are trying to cut through the clutter to get you the information that you need. So check out our websites to get that guidance that you need. And if you have questions, of course, just reach out to me or your contacts to get answers. Thank you for having me today, Jeff.
Hey, Gideon, you've been doing a great job. Illinois Realtors is doing a great job. So I very much appreciate you being here. Rebecca, did you want to add anything from an MRED perspective?
Just for those brokers out there that might be listening who are also owners of MRED, because again, MRED is a broker-owned MLS. We had originally planned to have our in-person strategic planning / owner meeting event that you had all received the invitations to on April 30th. We are moving that to a virtual platform. We do have some business to conduct, and so it'll just be the morning of April 30th. And for those out there that don't know if you are an owner of MRED and would like to be, please let me know and we would be happy to tell you about that. But otherwise, April 30th, 10 a.m. to noon is our plan for that owners meeting. But other than that, I think we've covered everything. So thanks again, Jeff.
Thanks for all the great information as usual, Rebecca. And Joe, I think you've said everything, or do you have anything you want to add?
I just add to everyone to stay well and stay engaged with your realtor community resources.
Yeah, and speaking of those resources, I again invite everybody to get out to NSBAR.org, get out to the website, and we've posted on the website under the forms and contracts portion of the site, NSBAR's own COVID-19 addendum for sales contracts. In case that issue comes up, you do have a way of rescheduling, whether it be closings, whatever else that you need to do pursuant to this rider. and it will help provide you guys with some definiteness about when you're going to reschedule things. That's one of the items that we're very concerned about is this, okay, because we can't close due to the current situation, that we just will reschedule for when we can. You know, we're trying to be a little bit more definitive about that. You'll see that in the rider that we're providing to everybody. So with that, unless there's something else that's coming, Bradley, I'm going to thank our panel members, and we'll stay safe out there, please, and let us know if you need any help. Thanks again. Take care. Unmute yourself, Gideon. Oh, mute, I'm sorry.